welcome to today's workshop. Today we are going to discuss on temper tantrums and meltdowns in children. For this we have Kajal, Daga and Diksha Sethi with us. So let's start with this. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello everyone, good morning. This is Kajal Daga, child psychologist, and I and my colleague, child psychologist Diksha Sethi. Today we are going to discuss about temper tantrums and meltdowns in children. Yes, Diksha, you can introduce yourself.
Yes, Kajal, thank you. So good morning, everybody. I am Diksha Sethi. I am a child psychologist at Moms Believe. So today, me and Kajal will be giving you an insight regarding the temper tantrums and meltdowns in children. So Kajal will be covering mostly about tantrums and I'll be covering mostly about meltdowns. And all the questions will be welcomed or addressed in the end. So, Kajal, let's start.
Thank you, Diksha. Okay. So first of all, let's understand that what are we going to cover in today's session. We'll be understanding what are tantrums and meltdowns. How can a parent distinguish between a tantrum and a meltdown? Then we'll be discussing upon the ABC model to identify whether your child is showing a meltdown or a tantrum. Then we'll be discussing the most important part, which is interventions for tantrums and meltdowns, and lastly the conclusion. So here I begin about what the tantrums are. So as you guys can see in this image, the child is in a grocery store and asking for a toy or some sort of a chocolate from the parents. So basically meltdowns, just as adults, we show our frustration by screaming or yelling. Similarly, children also show their frustration and anger. This is known as temper tantrums, and how we saw in the video that child might seek attention or because of their physiological needs as in thirst, hunger, sleep concerns, then seeking independence. As we all know, age of 2-year-old child is known as terrible twos. They are usually seeking independence. They are getting separated from their parents, so they seek independence. To seek independence, some sort of control over their lives, they can throw tantrums. Then a 2 to 5-year-old child lacks certain various skills, cognitive skills, fine motor skills. Because of that also, children can throw tantrums. Then lacking the necessary verbal skills, 2 to 5-year-old child, 0 to 5-year-old child understands a lot what their parents are saying, but does not have the words to express themselves. That's the reason they use screaming, winning, breath holding to communicate their needs to the parents, then to avoid or escape an undesirable activity. Most importantly, many a times when we tell our child to do some sort of activity, some sort of homework, they throw a tantrum because they want us escape from that undesirable activity. Then the last thing is to obtain a tangible item. As we saw in the first picture, that the child was lying in the grocery store asking for a toy. To seek some sort of desirable tangible item, children usually throw tantrums. Now, Diksha, you can explain about the meltdowns.
Yes, Kajal, thank you for a very good explanation about tantrums, a very nice explanation. So we'll be covering about meltdowns, how it is actually different from tantrums, what are the causes, how does the child respond. So we'll be covering all that in the meltdown part. So Kajal, can you have the next slide, please? So what is the meaning of meltdown? What exactly is meltdown? So basically, meltdown is a fight, flight, or freeze response, maybe due to sensory overload. Now, what is sensory overload? Sensory overload, when you get more input from your senses than your brain can process, sort, or respond to, right? Something extra which my brain is receiving. Right. So I'll give you a very basic example. For example, you have sounds like sound of mixer, cooker, flash, sound of flash at your home. Okay, you are able to tune out. If my child is not able to tune out, you are able to tune out. You are able to segregate and filter out that particular information or sound which you are getting. Your brain is able to respond or process. But on the other hand, when it comes to the meltdown, my child is getting extra input from the senses which my brain can respond or process through. So that is sensory overload, something extra. right? So and my child is not able to tune out. When my child is not able to tune out, the meltdown is happening, right? So here a very important point, tantrum is different from meltdown in this way. If you in a tantrum, when a child is throwing tantrum, you are giving that child a particular desirable outcome or a desirable thing, the tantrum will stop, right? But when it comes to the meltdown, even when the trigger stops, or you are trying to make your child happy, or trying to distract your child, or trying to give the desirable outcome, the meltdown will not stop. So here you can actually catch what is my child facing. Is it a tantrum or is it a meltdown, right? So now how does a child respond when it is a meltdown? So again, there will be the things will be overlapping when it comes to the tantrum part or the meltdown part. So it can be same: running, hiding, avoiding eye contact, covering your ears, covering their ears, screaming, yelling, crying, hitting, punching, pushing, shutting their shutting down, not speaking, not able to speak to anyone. So this is a method of showing that the child is having a sensory meltdown. So, for example, as I explained you regarding the auditory thing, okay, the sound of a cooker, the sound of a mixer, the sound of flash. Similarly, there can be different ways of meltdown, different reasons. So it can be basically very, flashy lights, overhead lights, tags or textures, even your texture clothes. Okay, the clothes of your textures. I'm so sorry. The texture of your clothes, the tags of your clothes, the flashing light, which is basically normal for us. The sunlight. Okay, it is again we can tune out, but for my child it is very extra. It is so much to process. Kajal, can we have the next slide? So I'll show you an example, a video example of how does a meltdown happen.
Have to follow a routine for Bodhi, otherwise he'll get upset and agitated. We're always like in the midst of a terrible tantrum. Okay. It's every day. Sometimes if Bodhi says, I don't want to wear this shirt to school, I'll just give in because it's really not worth the battle. He doesn't like foods that are mushy. I don't want it. He's very sensitive to the textures. He's really resistant to baths. Absolutely no showers. Okay, you ready to come inside? No, I don't know. Bodhi has problems with brushing his teeth. He refuses to use toothpaste. Can we put a tiny bit of toothpaste on? No! Constantly trying to make the kid happy, and sometimes it's impossible.
So yes, as you saw in the video, again, there were certain triggers. There were certain triggers related to sensory overload. The child had issues in the textures of clothing. The child had issues in eating certain textures. The child likes mushy food. So again, what is happening here? This is my trigger. Where again, it is getting overloaded for my brain to process, and the child is again having meltdown. So in the end, the mother said, I'm trying everything to make him happy. If you saw that part, but my child is again, I'm not able to help. Right. Similarly, the same experience you will be experiencing experience in the meltdown part. Okay. So again, what are my triggers? What are the causes of meltdown? Sensory overload, as we just discussed. Okay. Being in a new or challenging environment. Okay. So, everybody requires predictability, even us. But when it comes to the children with sensory issues, there are a lot of problems when there is a change in environment, change in location, change in routine. For example, the child is eating breakfast first and then going to take a shower. If you just shuffle the routine, like bathing first and then the eating part second, you will be experiencing a meltdown. Right? Change in routine, then change in environment, change in location, change in terms of new people around. Okay, or transitioning even from one activity to the next can cause a sensory meltdown. So here what we have to be very considerate is of, like, we have to be very empathetic. One. Second, we have to, again, I'll be explaining the same in the management and prevention part regarding, how to cope up with the transition or how to cope up with the routine. And next is inability to accurately communicate. If I am having, as Kajal explained, if I am having a stomach ache and I'm not able to communicate that I am having a stomach pain and everybody's around me, what is happening, I'll be very much frustrated and irritated, right? Similarly, when the child is not able to communicate that, I am experiencing this or I am experiencing certain sort of emotion, he's all confused. And, when you speak a lot that time also, like, that you are trying to help though, but again, the child is getting more irritated and the meltdown is increasing and increasing. So next, lack of sleep, hunger or poor nutrition, and dysregulation. So emotional dysregulation, basically when the child is not able to regulate or process his emotions, be it happy, sad, angry, not able to aware, okay, I'm having a meltdown, I am feeling angry, okay, not able to understand, he's all confused. Of course, when there is no emotional awareness, I'll not be able to regulate my emotions. So these are the following causes and triggers of sensory meltdowns. Kajal, over to you.
Yes. Okay, so as Diksha has wonderfully explained that what meltdowns are, and now we already know that what tantrums are, it's very important for us to distinguish between the both, because the kind of behavior that children show in both of these situations are kind of similar. They involve in winning, crying, screaming, shouting, punching, kicking, hitting. When the behaviors are same, so it gets difficult for parents to understand that what the child is showing, because the management part is different for both of them. So we need to understand. So as we have discussed that tantrums are basically to gain some desirable activity or to escape from some undesirable activity. And the sensory meltdowns are due to the sensory overload. Sometimes the child does not like some flashy lights, as Diksha already explained wonderfully. So these are sensory meltdowns. So how can we distinguish between both? So the first video that we saw, the child was watching for the reaction of parents. He was moving, looking, oh, I found my mother. Then he threw himself on the floor and started crying. But in the second video, irrespective of whether his mother is present or not, the child was going on crying and crying. So that was a meltdown. So basically, look whether your child is watching for your reaction. If yes, then tantrum. If no, then meltdown. Then again, is the child considering their own safety? So a lot of times what happens, suppose if I talk about head banging. If the child is banging his head against the wall, very harshly, he's pushing his head against the wall, then and nobody's around him, then it can be a meltdown. But if your child is banging his head on the pillow or on some surface, a soft surface, and very slowly and stops when you are not there, then that can be a tantrum. Then another example is if the child is in control of their own behavior. In the first video we saw the child was completely under control his behavior. How? Because he was able to stop crying, get up, look for his mother, and then again cry. But in the second video, the child was not able to control his behavior. Even if the mother provided him the food, which can be not a resistance, he is not showing resistance for that, even though he was keeping on screaming and showing appearing kind of frustrated. So that is a meltdown. Then is the child is making an effort to communicate their needs. So in the first video, the child was communicating that yes, I demand the attention. The first picture that we saw of grocery store holding a object, the child was communicating that yes, I need this. So he was communicating some sort of need. But in meltdowns, the child was not communicating anything. He was just frustrated, just like we all get frustrated in our lives. In this COVID situation, we all get frustrated that we cannot just do anything. We all are helpless. So that you can understand as a meltdown. Sometimes we also get so much frustrated that we start crying. So that's a meltdown basically. Then is the child able to calm themselves down? So basically, suppose the grocery picture that we have seen, when I provide the child with an object and he stops crying and he's happy. That means that's a tantrum, because when I fulfill his demand, when I fulfill his need, he immediately gets back to normal. But a child who is facing a sensory meltdown, it gets very difficult for them to calm themselves down, even though they need some time to get themselves relaxed and to again regain their control on their senses. So I hope you guys are clear with this. How can you distinguish between a tantrum and a meltdown? Forward to you, Diksha.
Yes, very well said, Kajal. There is a huge difference when it comes to the tantrum and meltdown, and again, it depends on you how you respond to that. Again, if you consider your child's meltdown as a tantrum, again, it will be a huge havoc at your place, and you must, of course, you all like majority of you must have experienced the same. So yes, understanding ABC model. So what is ABC model? ABC model is very important to understand the child's behavior, whether it is tantrum or it is meltdown, is very, very, very important. So Kajal, next slide, please. So what is A? A is my antecedent. Antecedent is the triggering factor which causes the behavior to occur in the first place. It can be anything. Okay, it can be anything. It can be a mean to get attention. It can be for escaping an activity or situation, to get some tangible item, or tangible or some materialistic thing, or it can be a sensory overload. Right. So antecedent can be anything. Basically, it's a triggering factor which triggers the behavior of the child. B is the behavior, the actual behavior, what the child does in reaction to the preceding event, what the child does in reaction to the antecedent. Okay, so it can be again shouting, crying, yelling, throwing things, harming himself, hitting you. It can be anything. The behavior can be anything. C is the main point. C is the main point here. Why? Because C is the response that follows. C is the consequence. It is the response that follows after the behavior. Now it decides. Okay, the consequence, the response, my response decides whether the behavior, will be repeated or not again in the future. So behavior followed by a pleasant response will be repeated, of course. Okay, and behavior followed by an unpleasant response will likely not. So let's give you a very basic example. For example, my child is, throwing a tantrum, or my child is crying because of a candy. Okay, I want candy, I want this candy, I want this candy. And you are at the grocery store. So the mother, you are not giving him the candy. Okay, he starts throwing tantrum. So again, A is what? The triggering factor, A factor. You are not giving him the candy. Child wants candy. That's it. That is A. Behavior is that the child starts yelling, crying, lying down on the floor, rolling on the floor. That is the behavior. Consequence is your response. So again, it can be two responses. One, somehow out of, in order to save yourself from the embarrassment, you give in. Okay, let's, just keep quiet, take the candy. It's okay. And that is the biggest mistake we are doing. Why? Because again, remind yourself, if you do this kind of behavior, you give in, what are you trying to do is you are increasing the likelihood, increasing the chances are very high that my behavior, my child's behavior, crying or yelling, will be repeated in the future to get the same thing or other thing, whatever he wants. Okay, the intensity will be, again, it will increase, and the frequency also will be increased if I give in to the behavior. Okay, because what I'm doing is I'm rewarding the behavior, I'm reinforcing the behavior. The child will understand that it is the best to get the to get whatever I want. But on the second response, if you do not give in and you take your child back to the home and give him some consequences. So consequences can be taking your child's favorite item for some hours, or reducing the screen time. That is my consequence. So now what we are doing is, because of the inappropriate behavior, we give the consequence. And now what will happen because of this response? My behavior, the child's behavior of crying and yelling, again, the chances of repeating this behavior will be very much, it will be reduced. There will be like very less likelihood that this behavior will be repeated in the future. Because now child knows, whenever I will be throwing or doing this, I will be getting this consequence. Right? And again, one last point, very important point here is this I explained regarding the tantrum. But when it comes to meltdown, my response will be completely different when it comes to the meltdown. So we'll be discussing the response, how to respond to a meltdown in the next upcoming slides. So yeah, Kajal, up to you.
Okay, so now let's come to the interventions. That's the most important part. I know most of the parents are here. That how can we manage when the situation occurs? But today, let's learn how to deal with the temper before it does not occur. That means, as we all say, that prevention is better than cure. So let's learn about some preventive measures that we can take so that the situation only does not occur, or it can minimize. Okay, so first of all, how can we tame the temper? Preventive measures, schedules and routines. It's very important to set your child's schedules and routines. As you can see in this chart, and as we are talking about the younger children, so you can have this chart, this sort of chart placed at your home, because children are visual learners and they tend to follow the things that are visually pasted. So like this, you can schedule their morning, afternoon, night schedules. what's the benefit of this schedule and routine is that the child will be prepared. Okay, that these are the tasks that I have to do in my whole day, and when they will have something to look forward for their day, most likely a tantrum might not occur, because then they'll be prepared that what needs to be done the whole day. Now, second, prompts and transitions. So this is very important, because what happens, suppose my child is watching TV and all of a sudden I come and tell him that switch off the TV, it's time to study. Suppose my child is playing with the toys, automatically I come and tell him that pack up your toys. What will happen? The likelihood of throwing a tantrum, the rate is very high. So instead of that, what you can do while the child is watching TV, you can provide him with a simple prompt that after 20 minutes, we have to do an activity or we have to do your homework. So even though your child might not like to do that homework part, but he'll be some sort of prepared in his head that after 20 minutes, my mother can come and can switch off. So he'll be prepared. So also, while doing the activities, give your child the freedom to choose what sort of activity he wants to do, what sort of homework he wants to do first. Okay, so keep providing the reminders to your child in advance to prevent the tantrum. Then skill building, as I have told you earlier also, child might lack in some skills. Suppose the child is solving puzzle and he is not able to do so, and also when we are doing something and we are not able to solve something, we can also get frustrated. So why not children? So keep on building their skills, work on their skills. Next, teach coping skills and emotional coaching. As I've already told you that why do children throw tantrums? Because they don't have the vocabulary. So when suppose your child is fighting for a toy with the sibling, uh, he's snatching the toy from his sibling, then at this situation you can intervene and you can provide the word to your child that I know you are frustrated, you want to have the toy. So what you can do is you can ask, give me, share with me, provide your child with the appropriate vocabulary, that share with me, help me, like this vocabulary, or I am feeling frustrated. Don't teach your child that I am frustrated, because you are frustrated and you are feeling something are completely two different things. Then providing choices. Why providing choices are important, as we have discussed that 2-year-old child or children does seek some sort of autonomy or independence in their lives. So, and they don't want the dictatorship. Nobody wants somebody to rule their life. So what you can do in day-to-day scenario, give your child small options so that they can make healthy choices. Tell them, you want to drink water from a pink bottle or a blue bottle, let them choose. You want to do this homework or this homework, let them choose. You want to wear this t-shirt or this t-shirt. Also, when you will provide them choices, along with the autonomy and independence and gaining confidence, they will also learn to make decisions in their life. Now the most important part, even after following all the preventive measures, if your child throws tantrums, then what you can do? If we see the first picture, the child is throwing tantrum, throwing all the things. What does the mother do? She's hitting the child or yelling at him. And if I talk about the second picture, the child is throwing a tantrum, getting angry from his mother. What is mother doing? Comforting him. What do you want? How can I help you? So both of these situations are incorrect. Let me tell you why. The second one might can make your child calm, but it is very harmful for you, because then the child will learn, yes, I should follow this method. This is the only method. My mother will pay attention to me. Just as in grocery store, the child was screaming about the toy, and if the mother provides him with that, then the likelihood, as Diksha mentioned in ABC model, will increase, and the intensity will increase of performing that behavior again, because the child knows only the way to seek an object from my mother is to show a tantrum. And in the second, when the mother is hitting the child, I know it gets difficult to control yourself, but when she is hitting, children are great imitators. tantrum is a learned behavior. When you are hitting, when the child grows up, he hits you back, because now he knows that when you are hitting him, that's the only way to gain control. Because my mother make me do all the work by hitting me, so I will hit her back. I can gain some sort of control over her. And if we yell on child, they also yell back on us. So these are highly ineffective methods. What you can do is, when your child is throwing tantrums, sit aside him, take deep breaths, let him cry, because he is throwing a tantrum to seek some object. It's not a meltdown. So let him cry, take deep breaths, because the situation is difficult for you to, requires a lot of patience and calm on your side. Take deep breaths. When he calms down, then ask him, okay, tell me, what do you want? Give him the options, give him the vocabulary. Now the next technique. If I've told you not to hit, yell, or spank your child, then there should be some sort of effective punishments. Otherwise, the child will be spoiled. So timeout is the most effective punishment that you can give your child. Just as the timer is provided in the picture and the child is sitting back of the wall is plain. Make sure there are no windows or no flashy images, because the child will spend his time looking at those images. So what you can do when a child is throwing a tantrum, just give them a single warning. After a single warning, you are not going to discuss anything with your child. Just hold his hand, make him sit on the chair. And suppose if your child is 3 years old, then set a timer for 3 minutes. Per year, 1 minute. Okay. If your child is 8 years old, provide the timer for 8 minutes. Like this, you can provide timeout. And in timeouts, what children do, they usually get up from the chair again and again. So what parent can do is, again, hold their hand, make them sit on the chair, start the timer again. Consistency is the key. If the child will learn that you are not consistent, because children are very much smarter than us. Very much smarter than us. So if the child will know, if I get from chair, mother screams and then everything gets normal, then I don't have to sit on the chair, then he will perform that behavior. So many a times, for some time you ignore your child's behavior, but then he tests you by making his voice louder and louder, just to test you. Okay. So timeout you can follow. Another is reward charts, to inculcate a sort of positive discipline in your child. So for younger children, you can use these kind of visuals, and the choices the child have to make, because he's seeking independence. He can choose his reinforcement. Suppose why he's getting the toy, getting this reinforcement, because suppose there is a rule that you cannot hit anyone today. Morning, afternoon, and evening, I'll see my child, and if he has not hit anybody, then he will get stars. And after he has completed all his stars, suppose we take 3 stars, if he has taken 3 stars for the day, then only we can give him that reinforcement. Don't use this same reinforcement any other time of the day, otherwise this technique will fail. Now let's come to second last strategy, if then statements and house rules. So what are they? As you can see in this image, that there are some consequences written, and for every consequences equals to a time out. Okay. So you'll ask me that when the consequences all the same, then why we have mentioned every behavior differently? Because if I tell my child not to hit, if you will hit, then time out. Then what child will do? He will throw things, he will spank somebody, he will throw things, or he will listen, he will scream. And then if you will give him a timeout, then he will say, you are doing it unfairly because you have told me not to hit. Now I'm throwing things, I'm screaming, I'm not hitting. So children are very smart, very smart. So mention each and everything. And then equals to this. Don't do, then you have to face this. Okay, then let's come to house rules. House rules, there are a lot of house rules, but we can take just one of them. We can make only one of them as well. Suppose there's a lot of hitting going in the whole home. Mother is hitting the child is hitting younger sibling, everybody is screaming on everybody. Then what you can do, you can just place a house rule, no hitting chart equals to happy family chart. And also then you can place a consequence. If somebody hits, then he has to clean a window, or he has to wipe a floor. Even if the mother is not following the rule, if she hits the child or if father hits the child, then they also have to follow the consequence. As children learn through imitating, when they will say you are following the rules, they will also follow, and tantrum less likely to occur. Now, last, our technique of managing the tantrums is that when a child is throwing tantrum, what you can do, just distract them. How can you distract them? Just tell them, oh, look, there's something very exciting. So your child will, for minute seconds, will forget and will come and look what's so exciting there. What you can do is you can make them count backward, because it will divert their attention. Also, you can make them hold a piece of ice in their hand, because our body gets heated up, and also when we hold ice, it provides us a different kind of sensation. Okay, it will also help you. Then you can do grounding exercises. Okay, tell me 5 things that you can see in the room, 4 things that you can smell, 3 things that you can hear. Okay, like this you can tell your child about the grounding techniques. So now Diksha will let you know about how can we manage the meltdowns. Over to you, Diksha.
Yes, Kajal, absolutely. So before that, I would like to add a point for the parents specifically, that when the tantrum gets over, or when there the child gets calmed down, do not get into a power struggle. Do not say say sorry now, say sorry, or say I'll not do it again. Do not do that. Okay, if simply say that you did this, you did an inappropriate behavior, and again the behavior has to be inappropriate. Do not get into this good boy bad boy. Do not say that. There is no good boy bad boy. There is either appropriate behavior or inappropriate behavior. So always remember that thing. So when you did this thing, you did a bad behavior, so you got the consequences. Simply tell them that you did that. Okay, and when the child after several hours, okay, after several hours, if you want to talk about a tantrum, wait for some hours, like 5 to 6 hours, then go back to the child and say that why you did that behavior, that was a bad behavior. Now we always as parents have this tendency to tell our children that you do not do this, you cannot do this, that was bad behavior, but we forget to tell them what is the appropriate behavior they could have indulged in. Right? So tell them that that was a bad behavior, that was an inappropriate behavior. Now if you get into the same situation again in the future, tell them what coping mechanism or what another behavior you can do, okay, in order to avoid the consequences. Okay, and when the tantrum just like it is just over, do not get into a power struggle, and always go and hug your child, say you love them. Okay, do not just forcefully tell them to say sorry, or I'll not do it again. Yes. So
sorry,
moving,
but a last point is also there, that avoid saying your child no, because often parents say don't do this, no, don't put your feet on the floor. So the no that we say, it's kind of irritating. Instead of that, you can use positive communication. You can tell them that what you expect out of them, that keep your feet to yourself. If he is hitting his younger sibling, you can tell him to keep your hands to yourself. If not going to bed, then you can tell the child to let's sleep, it's time to sleep. Instead of saying no playing, you can tell them what is expected out of them. Okay, Diksha, you can continue.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Kajal. So we'll be talking about the meltdown, the prevention and management, right? So Kajal, let's go on the next slide. Yes. So prevention, as we always say, prevention is better than cure, right? So while I understand all sensory meltdowns cannot be prevented, right? Things, at least you can do something to reduce the intensity and frequency of the meltdowns, right? Before that, so here comes our prevention. Always keep your child hydrated. Always keep your child, always keep a very attractive water bottle with you, so that and give a child a gentle reminder, time to drink water. Keep a visual reminder on the wall, time to drink water. Now it is a time to drink water, and keep it as attractive, a very attractive water bottle. So the child is also, it is also the child also gets, motivated to have water because of this very attractive visual bottle. Right. Second is healthy snacking. Again, food is very important. Always remember, okay, try and cut down sugar from your child's diet. It is very important. Replace sugar with, in case of in replacement of sugar, you can use jaggery, you can use honey, you can use dates. Okay, it is very important. And add some omega-3 in your child's diet. Right. So healthy snacking is very important. Next is, again, give your child the vocabulary. As Kajal again explained in the tantrum part, that it is very important to express, very important to say. Okay, so every time, and again, do not do it when the child's meltdown starts happening. It will be a very good big havoc in the house. So repeat it again, make him practice that whenever you will be getting that into the situation, what you can do is you can say, help me mama. Okay, help them identify the emotions they are facing. Okay, you feel angry, say, mama, I am feeling angry. Okay, help me, I am feeling angry. Because the child, when the meltdowns happen, the child is always confused. What exactly am I feeling? What signals my body is giving to me? So there is a lack of vocabulary and emotional vocabulary, of course. So make him again practice that vocabulary. Make him repeat that thing. Help me, I'm angry. So repetition on a daily basis is very important. Second, next is sufficient sleep. Of course, sleep is very important for every human. Even if we don't get a proper sleep, we get cranky. So imagine, what is happening to our children, right? Next slide, Kajal. Okay, very important thing. Identify and avoid triggers. So identify all the triggers. Identify your child's triggers. What is leading to the meltdown? Okay, be very mindful about it. For example, you know your child is triggered by loud noises. Okay, so always carry noise cancellation headphones for places where it may be too noisy or sudden loud noise can occur. So always be very mindful and always be very cautious about it. If your child is sensitive to noises, always remember to carry noise cancellation headphones with you, right? So write down all the triggers what your child is experiencing, and again, as we have said, prevention is always better. So identifying triggers will again lead a very long way and will be very helpful to your child. Yes. So next is indulge your child in physical activities. Indulge your child in heavy activities, heavy work activities. So, for example, it can be stacking chairs. Okay, Kajal, help mama in stacking the chair. Or Kajal, help mama in dragging that heavy chair. Again, do that on a daily basis. Weighted backpack. You can add some, some material, some heavy. Make it little again heavy, not very heavy. It is very important to that we are not giving our child certain punishment. Very important to remember that, right? So make it little heavy and ask a child to maybe jump or engage a child in certain obstacle courses, like he has to jump through the sofa, he has to jump through that certain particular, he has to carry the weighted backpack and he has to jump thrice or 4 times, and he has to cross the sofa. So make it very interesting. Do not make it sound as a punishment for your child. Okay, pulling carts, okay, or wiping tables, wiping windows. Again, it can be it can be of a very great help in household work also. Yeah. And then carry heavy books from one place to another, taking out trash, watering plants, wall push-ups. So again, it is indulge your child in all the physical activities and heavy work activities on a daily basis. Again, I am mentioning again and again, do not do it, and so do not only do it when the meltdown starts. Okay, it will not help. You have to make your child practice everything every day, so that when the meltdown gets started, we have built our child. We have already told our child that when it will get started, there will be certain coping mechanisms you can do. So we have to make it a regular practice for our child. Next slide, Kajal. Yes, very important thing. First of all, control your own response. Okay, again, if you are not control, you are panicking or you are getting angry, you are hitting your child back. Okay, if your child is hitting you, you are setting a very bad example for him. And again, you have to be very empathetic to the child. The child is experiencing a neurological response, right? He's not doing it intentionally. It is not a tantrum. So you have to be very empathetic. You have to control your own response first. Be very calm, and when you're dealing with your child who's having meltdown. Next is talk little. Okay, once your child is having a fight, flight, or freeze response, okay, or a meltdown response, their ability to assess a part of the brain that process language is essentially shut down, right? So whatever you are speaking, it is not even going. It is only frustrating the child. Okay, but do not use more and more sentences. What can I do? What can I do to make you happy? Is everything fine? Do not say that. Okay, just let your child, just ask your child, or just tell your child it is okay, it will be okay, come on, let's breathe. And very softly, do not go and shout in front of your child, right? And remove the child from the situation. That is again something that is extra, as I've said, mentioned earlier also, something extra, some area which is giving him something extra, or there is sensory overload in that particular area. Remove the child from the situation, right? Next slide, Kajal. So where we can move our child, we can take our child to the calming corner. Okay, so designate what is a calming corner. Okay, as you can see in a picture, we have given you a reference picture for the calming corner. You can prepare a calming corner for yourself in your child. Only just designate a corner in your house or home. Okay, it has to be quiet and it has to be accessible. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए that you are going to the calming corner is on the first floor and you are on the ground floor. It will not help. It should be accessible. Okay. Then fill the space with soft rugs or mat, maybe bean back chair or other items for sitting or lying down, and some of your child's favorite book and stuffed animals. Right? Very important. And add artwork to your space. Maybe your family pictures, maybe where the child is feeling happy, he's smiling, he's enjoying himself. Put that picture on the wall. Some paintings, some artwork related to the nature. So make it more aesthetic and make it more aesthetic to your child also. So you can do that. And again, a very important thing, like the most important thing is to prepare a calm down kit for your child, right? So again, when you're in the calming corner, prepare this anti-anxiety kit, prepare this calm down kit. Okay. So what we can add in calm down kit is, so again, when it comes to the sensory part, we always consider 7 things. Okay. So what is this? All the 5 senses: my visual, auditory, gustatory, olfactory, touch, textures, and two more. There are vestibular and proprioception. Right? So when we ever talk about sensory, there will be 7 important terms for you, right? So take everything related to each sense. For example, for sounds, add noise cancellation earphones in that kit. Okay. Or maybe you can use always calming music, a gentle, soft, calming music. Again, it can be instrumental. Remember not to use anything which has lyrics. Okay, use something which is very soft, use something which is very calming, and some instrumental piano music or flute music you can use while you're in the calming corner with your child. Okay, something related to the visuals. If your child like colors, okay, identify your child's needs and identify your child's strengths. Okay, it can be colors, it can be sheets, it can be coloring book, it can be something related to the straw. You can do blow painting. Just give the straw and add some paint on the sheet and ask the child to blow and do blow painting. Okay, a sensory bottle. So I'll show you what is a sensory bottle, if you can see. So again, something, so it is again it will be very attractive for your child. Okay, so take a water bottle, add some beads, add some glittery items in the sensory bottle and shake it. Again, what will happen, it will be a calming thing for his visual part, right? Prepare a bottle like this. Smell, related to smell, use a lavender oil. Lavender oil, I am assuring you, it is very, very calming. Okay, it will be very calming for your child. So use lavender oil. Keep always lavender oil as a SOS thing for your child. Then textures, using a bubble wraps, clay, slime, fidget spinners, okay, stress ball. You can use these kind of textures for your child. And some objects like bubbles. You can use bubbles, you can use pinwheels, you can use weighted blankets, right? So the child can blow bubbles, the child can blow into the pinwheels, the child can use weighted blankets. Again, weighted blankets add a lot to your proprioception, right? It gives you that particular pressure, right? So you can add these kind of items in your calm down kit. So always make that ready, always keep that ready. Next, it's environmental enrichment therapy. Most of you must have heard about the term. For those who haven't heard about this term, is it's a multi-sensory approach. Okay, environmental enrichment therapy is it's a multi-sensory approach. You are using 2 or more senses to calm your child. So it can be for your attention, for your child's attention, for your child's anxiety, for calming him down. It can be used for multiple reasons. So very basic thing, you can do it at home, like combining 2 senses. Okay, so for example, you can use lavender. Okay, my smell. The smell is going, this sense is getting used, lavender, and give your child a rub on the back or use deep pressure massages while you are giving him the input of lavender oil. So what is happening is I'm using two senses here. Okay, one is my touch part, texture part, tactile part. Second is the smell part. Okay, or you can simply take 2 bowls, one with hot water, one with cold water. Now the child just has to put both his hands, one hand in the cold water and one hand in the hot water. And again, you can play some calming music in the background. So what is happening? My auditory. So I am receiving input through my ears and I'm receiving input through my touch. Or you can use textures. Maybe you can microwave something, make it little hot. If your child likes texture, okay, microwave it and it will be little hot. And or use some, keep some texture in the freezer. It will be cold. So again, one texture will be cold and one texture will be hot. And play some calming music with it. Okay, it will really work. But again, if you do it on a regular basis only. Next, Kajal. So calming and mindfulness technique, again, a very important topic. I'll again demonstrate certain activities with you. Okay, so again, we need to do deep breathing with our child. But if you ask your child to inhale or exhale, the child is very small, he'll not be able to understand. So use a very attractive technique for your child. Okay, almost every child likes bubbles. Okay, so what you can do is you can use a flower. I am using an artificial one. Please use real ones. Okay, you can ask the child to again smell. So inhaling through nose, I'm smelling and then blowing. So what is happening here is I am inhaling. Inhaling is happening through my nose. I'm smelling the flower. Of course, I'll be inhaling through my nose only, and I'm blowing. I'm blowing the bubbles. So here I'm exhaling. So it will be very, very attractive for your child, because again he can see a lot of visuals. Next is sure, Gargi. We are completing the presentation. Kajal, go for the next slide, please. Okay, so there is this mindfulness calendar for everybody. You can use a you can make a mindfulness calendar like this. If you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot of the screen and prepare a mindfulness calendar like this. And one last thing is 5-finger breathing. So again, when you have nothing with you, you can use your own hand. So again, inhale when you're going up, you're inhaling, and then when you're going down, you are exhaling. So again, you can train your child in the same manner. Yes, Kajal, next slide. So conclusion. Now we are concluding the presentation. So as we discussed in the presentation, tantrum is something behavior. Okay, meltdown is something which is sensory overload. So we have to be very mindful about that. Next is ABC model to identify. Always, try and make the ABC model, be it tantrum or be it meltdown. Triggers, identifying triggers is very, very important. Okay, then prevention is the key, as we discussed. Prevention is better than cure. So routine, structuring, expressing skills, communication, attention, very important. And the last part, as we discussed, is the breathing exercises, the mindfulness and the distractors. So yes, thank you for being a lovely audience. Always keep in mind that if as a mother you cannot do things, we cannot do things. So always remember, as a mother, you are very important in your child's development. So you are the role player, you are the giver. So you can only bring the improvement in your child. Always remember. So yes,
Also,
we can go on to the questions.
I would like to say that parents must be proud of many things in their life, but nothing can beat being a mother. So on this note, I would like to say thank you to all of you for being such a lovely and patient audience. Now you can let us know that how you guys felt about the presentation and the session in the comment chat box. And if you have some questions, then those are welcome. Thanks a lot.
I think we have a question in the chat box.
Yeah. So shall I read it to you?
Yes. So we have a question in the third option. I guess, Kajal, when you were doing the tantrum part, this question came that time. In the third option, what if the child is constantly hitting or pulling you because he's not getting any response from you? What to do in that situation? So, Kajal, would you like to address that?
Okay, sure. So basically, that if the child is hitting or pulling you because he's not getting any response from you, yes. So as we told you, that's the scenario when you have to maintain your calm. Because if he's constantly pulling you and you are ignoring him, but if he starts pulling you more, and then at a point will come where you will pay him the attention, then he will know that I have to pull my mother more, then only she will give me the attention. So to avoid this situation, just maintain your calm and you take deep breaths. Just tell him once that when you will calm down, then we will talk. Otherwise, do not discuss any positive or any negative thing that you are pulling me, you are doing this, don't do like this, don't do anything. Just maintain your calm, as we discussed in planned ignoring. Hope your answer hope
Yes.
the answer helps you.
Yes, Kajal, and as Kajal very well said. So again, one more thing to remember: if the child is hitting you, okay, the child is using this hitting tricks on you. So again, remove the child from the situation. Okay, remove him from the situation where it is happening, and say it very clearly, very firmly to him: do not hit. Hitting not allowed. If you hit me, you'll get the consequence. And again, be there with the child, and do not give into the tantrum. Do not give him any sort of attention, be it positive or be it negative. But again, whenever there is hitting happening, be very clear, be very firm, look into the eyes, hold his hand and say, no hitting. You're not allowed to hit. Okay, and if you hit again, you'll get the consequence. And again, very important, even if the tantrum goes down, Always remember what you have said to the child. If you have said your child you will give the consequence because of the tantrum, you have to give the consequence. Okay, even if the tantrum stop, because you have to make the child understand, because you did an inappropriate behavior, you will get the consequences. Otherwise, so the child can again remember that part in the future.
Also, even then, if the things don't work out, then timeout is the option. Timeout is the effective punishment. He should know that he's not doing something correct. So don't discuss anything with him. Put him in a timeout, and after that you can discuss things.
Yes.
So any other question? Or okay, there is one more question by Miss Madhuri. If the girl is teenager, how to handle back answering for the every task we ask for? So Diksha, would you like to address it?
Yes, of course. So, for example, if the girl is teenager, so first again, do not get into a power struggle. Somehow, teenagers are specifically in that area, that stage where whatever you say to them, they will answer back, and it is a scenario in every home. So again, use more logical and you be more logical. Okay, so whenever the child is, for example, there are situations when the child is coming up to you for something. Okay, and there are something where trying to ignore, or you are trying to not give them some certain logical answers. Okay, one is this. Second is again, just use maybe you can use if the child is teenager, then this reward chart, the token economy, I don't think it will work for the child. Again, you can use consequences for the child. You can say that if you talk to me like that again, you will get this consequence. Whatever the child's favorite thing is, you have to remember whatever, maybe the screen time, maybe certain gadget, maybe certain book or certain dress or anything. Okay, just tell them that if you do this again, I will do the consequence. I will take this away from you for a certain time period. One thing is the consequence you can use, and again, let me tell you, use a lot of positive statements for your child. Somehow, as patient, unconsciously or subconsciously, what we are doing is we are mostly talking about the negative behavior. That is why child gets the most stubborn. Maybe your husband is coming up to you and you are telling your child, this my girl or this child did this, and I gave a consequence to her. She deserved it. No, do not do that. Do not talk about or do not discuss about the negative behaviors in front of the child to anybody else. Instead, use a lot of positive statements. For example, your girl did something good. Tell her, I mean, that you did good, a very, very good job. I'm very proud of you. We are very proud of you as a daughter. Okay. Tell it to your husband, tell it to your in-laws, tell it to your, maybe anybody else in the relatives that, my girl did this today. I'm so proud of her. Okay, again, we can break this thing with her using a lot of positive punishment and using a lot of assertive statements with the child, and setting, of course, again, going up, and because the girl is teenager, so again, a lot of discussion has to be there. Tell her this is not acceptable. What is acceptable? Teach her the coping mechanisms. Give her some logical statements rather than using emotions. I am big, or I'm a parent. You cannot just do that to me. Do not say that. Give her something logical to just have some logical interaction or some logical discussion with it.
Okay, there are more questions, but we need to wind up the session as well.
So we'll take this last question, Kajal.
Yes, do take it. Also, meanwhile, you guys can tell us the feedback of the session. Yes, so Diksha, please go ahead.
My kid doesn't like to follow rules. What he has to be done in such a situation? He's 4.3 years. His language skills are good, but he likes testing people in this situation. Even if without a trigger, he likes testing what to do in such situation. So basically, Kajal and of course everybody, this is something which is related to the tantrum. Of course, when the testing is happening and he's testing people in these situation. So there must be have some like a time where you must have given in to the situation, and that is why now he's testing new behaviors. For example, when I was crying and yelling, my mother gave in to the situation, right? And now I'll do something more in order to test the patient. So here the trick here is use again consequences and you ignore. Okay, because he'll do that. He'll again increase the intensity, increase the frequency to gain your attention or to gain somebody's attention, to test somebody's patience, right? Here you have to be, ignorant. Again, do not use positive attention. Do not use negative attention. Do not hit him. Do not, shout on him, or do not give him some certain positive attention. Just ignore the behavior and tell him that if you do this again, he'll get a certain consequences, as Kajal discussed. Okay. And again, if you have more queries, then of course reach out to us at contact at the@momfeelieve.com. Okay, and we'll definitely answer your queries. So thank you for the session. Thank you everybody. Thank you for being a lovely audience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kajal. Thank you, Diksha, for this informative session.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, participants, for joining. Have a good day.